Physics in gaming today are easy to take for granted, but they weren't always a given. I still remember seeing Oblivion for the first time and being in disbelief at how realistically objects reacted. It's nothing special nowadays, but it was a huge leap up from what we had before. The best you could hope for was a canned animation, but by and large, things just weren't nearly as dynamic or reactive as they are now. Whether it be grounding a game's world or opening up entirely new means of interaction within it, the importance of physics implementation in gaming cannot be overstated. With that in mind, let's take a look through their evolution over the years to document and better appreciate the impact they've had on our favorite medium. Without further ado, let's get right into the action. Our story begins where all great stories do, with an overambitious Jurassic Park game. Back in 1998, this thing was poised to be a revolution, but like Noble Icarus, flew too close to the sun. Like, way too close, just directly into the sun, really. But we're not talking about it today because it was a kinda awful game. We're talking about what its wild ambition entailed. It was the first game in history to feature ragdoll physics. I know nowadays that probably just conjures up memories of some dead grunt getting stuck on your legs in Dark Souls and flinging itself off into oblivion, but at the time, this was a huge step up in interactivity. Even crazier, it had a physics engine that dictated how in-game objects reacted to things like weight, gravity, and the direction of contact. Sure, it had more bugs than a copy of Cyberpunk with lice, and virtually nothing at the time could run it without doing its best impression of a barn fire, but this thing was way ahead of its time in ways that almost nothing else in the industry was, or has been since. A mere 3 years after Shrek first graced humanity with his supple form and boundless wisdom, a game rolled in that took destruction to a whole new level. If you've seen some of our other videos, chances are you've heard us talk about Red Faction, and for good reason. Its impressive geomod engine lent the entire experience an air of improvisation and interactivity that few could match. While some games offered minor modifications to the background, like throwing up a special JPEG if you shot the wall, Red Faction allowed us to literally warp and demolish the game's world like nothing before. Things continued to get better, and games like Max Payne 2 successfully implemented ragdoll physics to leave the stark and melodramatic death sequences behind. As fun as it was to watch characters all fall to their death the same way over and over, the results here really speak for themselves. Titles like Far Cry improved interactions not only with other characters, but with the world itself. More possibilities for interaction meant a greater degree of nuance and player expression. But it wasn't until 2004's Half-Life 2 that a game's physics felt like an integral part of the game. Those of you who weren't around during this time or not following game media, I don't think I can understate just how impressive and revolutionary this title was. It genuinely changed what we expected out of our games. That is what I'm talking about. Look at him go. Trespasser inspired the Valve team to create a physics engine that considered everything from an object's speed and weight to its density and even buoyancy. The resulting puzzles and the iconic gravity gun were clear proof that great physics could not only make a game look more realistic, but also just make it more fun. Not only did this baby sell like hotcakes, it created a new standard. The bar had officially been raised. That wasn't the end of the impact that Half-Life 2 had on the industry either. Thanks to Valve's high-profile partnership with Havok to supply the physics engine, middleware companies started to grow in popularity. While most game companies would usually make all aspects of the engine in-house, middleware companies allowed them to instead buy a license to tried-and-true tools. This not only ended up saving development time and money, it also helped studios gain access to industry-leading tech. Nice PC, but can it run Crysis? You know, this entire game was like a middle finger to the console industry, and anyone with a net worth under Bill Gates. They ignored common sense and targeted PCs so high-end that they barely even existed at the time. It was a gamble, but it resulted in a game that was able to leverage tech years before it was standard. Others, like Flat Out or Burnout Paradise, were hyper-focused on nailing one impressive visual aspect, in this case, the chaos of crashing. Watching cars tear themselves apart in a beautiful ballet of metal and skyrocketing insurance premiums was a real treat. Meanwhile, Far Cry 2, Mercenaries 2, and Fracture built their entire identities around the unhinged carnage of physics-based destruction. Now this is the good stuff. Real vintage mayhem. Things were progressing, to be sure, but nothing like Half-Life 2's leap forward was anywhere to be seen until we got to Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto 4 is a divisive entry, but it's hard to argue that it didn't pack some amazing tech. Perhaps most famously, it replaced aging ragdolls with the brand new Euphoria engine. It paved the way for characters that instead of simply falling to the ground, reacted with more realistic weight and even tried to catch their balance. Grand Theft Auto's trademark mayhem was cranked up to 11 with pedestrians that really felt like they had some life to them. Almost made robbing them of said life in spectacular fashion make me feel a little bit like a dick. Almost. This was not cheap to implement. To this day, I only know of 2 games that even tried: Grand Theft Auto 4 and Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. Sheathing our lightsabers and going back to Grand Theft Auto for a second, the Euphoria engine arguably gave us more nuanced interactions and situations than even the almighty Grand Theft Auto 5. What do you think? Do you think Grand Theft Auto 5's interactions are just fine, thank you very much? Or do you miss the sheer euphoria of Euphoria? Let me know. In 2009 would bring us games like Mirror's Edge, which accompanied by the new physics technology from NVIDIA would give us some incredible interactivity. Glass could believably shatter and bounce, fabric could tear and billow, helicopters could kick up realistic debris. It was mighty impressive for 2009, and frankly, still looks pretty great. And that same year would also give us Red Faction Guerrilla, and humanity would never be the same. I mean, it was pretty much the same, but now we had Red Faction Guerrilla, so that's sort of different, I guess. Anyway, to this day, Guerrilla has some of the most impressive destruction and physics I've ever seen in a video game, and it came out like 11 years ago. At this point, it's earned the distinction of game that the cutting edge officially won't shut up about, and frankly, it's earned it. Minecraft also came out the same year, and well, I mean, Red Faction had the best destructible environment just in general, but in Minecraft you can break literally everything, so come on, Red Faction, step up your game. From this point on, progress has been more evolution than revolution. Perhaps a golden age of huge jumps every few years in terms of physics is behind us, but we are in a stage where proven methods are being refined and optimized more and more, resulting in physics that, while very similar to what came before, can be more nuanced and detailed. Physics are no longer just window dressing, they're integral to gameplay and how you interact with games. Whole games just wouldn't be the same without their destructible environments and added freedom that advanced physics engines afford them. More and more work is being put into replicating real-world phenomenon with incredible detail. This one in particular was recommended by a lot of you, and it's absolutely amazing. Also, it makes me really want more Burnout, like, super bad right now. There's games like Just Cause 3 that are just fun playgrounds for making trouble. Metal Gear Solid Rising allowed us to slice people and objects up like the world's scariest deli worker. From the AAA juggernauts to inspired indies, physics have permanently changed the gaming landscape, enriching video games and the ways we interact with them forever. We've come a long way from that noodle arm and Trespasser, but there's still a long way to go. Hopefully, this new generation of hardware will bring with it exciting new ways to play, alongside cathartic new means of destruction. And there you have it. Where we started, where we are now, and how we got there. The TLDR is lots of explosions, too many ragdolls, and a crappy Lost World game. What did you think? Any of these look like something you'd like to go back and check out? Do you think we were too hard on Trespasser? Or are you just here because you really like the way I smell? I'm flattered and also have a lot of questions and restraining forms to fill out. If you guys liked the video and you'd like to see more, subscribing, commenting, and leaving us a thumbs up really does help us out a lot, and it lets us know that we're making the kind of stuff that you want to watch. And on that note, the channel's been really blowing up lately, at least by my standards. I wanted to take a quick moment to thank you guys for watching our content and supporting what we do. It really means a lot, and we can't wait to bring you more. Anyway, till next time, I'm Joey Nasser, this is The Cutting Edge, and I'll catch you later.